Hello, and welcome to the Good Girls Get Rich podcast. I'm your host, Karen Yankovich, and today's show is one of my favorite topics. And it really is about how and what you charge and how you price the products and services that you offer. And it's a big topic. I've been interviewed many, many times on many, many podcasts and all kinds of places. And if I get asked, like, what's one piece of advice you would give women? I would basically often say, like, just double your price. Just double your price and then think about all the amazing things you would be able to offer at that highest price point. Because as women, we edge up our prices. We're going to increase it by 5% or 10%. The reality is if you double your prices and lose half of your clients, you're making the same amount of money for half of the work, right? Listen, and I'm not talking about overcharging here. The last thing I want you to do is overcharge. But here's the thing, you're not charging for your time. But somewhere along the way, we were taught to track it and to justify it and to explain it and to make sure it felt fair. And somehow fair became small, right? And here's the truth that no one says out loud. The women who are making the most money are not the one working the most hours. They're not posting the most content. They're not answering emails at midnight, right? They decided somewhere along the way that what they offer is not a transaction, it's a transformation. And transformation doesn't come with an hourly rate, right? So today we're going to kind of dismantle the idea that your value is measured in time and rebuild it around what you're actually doing in the world. Because once you see this, it will change the way you price forever. And my goal is to see more wealthy women in the world. I think the world needs more women with more money. So this is where we start. So let's talk a little bit about the belief that or the conditioning that we've had that price is based on effort, not outcome, right? That's like the corporate hangover, right? Like you have a salary and you work a certain number of hours. But even in corporate, at some point, you probably moved from hourly to salary, right? And a lot of times those salaries, you're working like an insane amount of hours for that, right? But it's that hourly thinking, it's that paycheck thinking. And it works in that environment, right? It definitely works in that environment. But think about those same corporations, what they're paying consultants to do the same job they were paying you to do. Because when you're getting paid hourly in a corporation with, that corporate pricing mindset, you're also there's what they call a loaded labor rate, right? Like you're getting paid your $50 an hour, $100 an hour, $1 million an hour, but you're also getting benefits and they're paying payroll taxes on it, right? And often that's 30, 40, 50% more. So when they pay a consultant that much more money, it's not that they're getting paid more money than you because you are costing that company the same amount of money. And frankly, as a consultant, it's an investment, not an expense. So it's easier money for them to spend, right? And you want to come in with the same mindset. You want to come into your, as a consultant or as a coach or whatever it is you do, if you're setting your own pricing, you need to remember this because you have overhead, right? I think about like yoga teachers, right? And they're like, I'm $10 a class. And if I have, 10 people, that's $100, and that's $100 an hour. No, it's not, right? No, it's not because how many hours do you spend cleaning before, cleaning after, and how much did you spend on mats and essential oils and the music, the Spotify music or whatever else? It's not $100 an hour. Plus, how about all the hours you put into training, right? So it's not just the hourly that we're counting here, which is why I don't like when people say, I'm $100 an hour, because then people immediately, or it's 10 hours for $1,000. People immediately do the math then, right? And think it's $100 an hour, which it's so not, right? It's so not. But we kind of default to what we think is fair as opposed to value, right? So and I talked about this a couple episodes ago with the good girl tax, right? Good girl tax, is things like over delivering, right? Undercharging, over explaining. And that's what keeps women stuck under six figures, even when they're brilliant, right? Even when they're brilliant. So, you're charging for sessions or packages or deliverables instead of outcomes. And that's what we want to stop. That's what you want to stop. So I want you to kind of take a quick look at your LinkedIn profile. And if it lists tasks, right? If it lists tasks, I'll help you post 3 times a week, right? You're reinforcing that time-based pricing instead of starting to focus your following on the outcomes that you offer. Does that make sense? So remember that you're not charging for time. You're not charging per post. You're not charging for a strategy call. You're not charging for a certain number of PR pitches, right? You're charging, in my world, I charge for identity shifts, right? You're becoming from invisible to known, right? And you want to go from I hope this works to I am the obvious choice for this because I have done this before and I have proof. I have proof that the work that I do transforms lives, transforms identities, and that brings in more money into your bank account, right? And you also want to go from a generalist to a category leader, right? This is really, really important. I can use you can throw me any industry you want, but let's just use real estate agents here, for example. You throw a dart at the map of the United States and you're going to find, 50 real estate agents within 20 miles of wherever the dart lands, right? And so you have a lot of competition. If somebody I know a lot of realtors, ton of realtors, right? If somebody calls me and says, hey, listen, Karen, my kids are looking to buy a house in your town. Who do you know? If one of those realtors specializes in helping, people buy houses like first-time buyers, I'm going to send them to them. Otherwise, you're going to get thrown in with the 20 people I know, right? So you want to specialize because specialists are known for what they do. It doesn't mean you can't help other people. For example, use me as an example. My programs are called She's Linked Up. My podcast is called Good Girls Get Rich. I'd say more than half of my private clients are men. Doesn't mean I can't work with men. It just means that I focus my marketing on women because I think women need to hear this message more, right? So I become a specialist. So that if there's a women's conference that's looking for speakers for these kinds of things, they come to me first because I'm known for speaking about these things to women. Right. And that's how you become a specialist from a generalist. And it helps you with that identity shift. Right. You also, and this has been such a big topic in this last couple months on this show, you also want to have so much clarity. You want messaging that makes people say yes to you fast, right? Why you? What makes you different than everyone else? You want to make sure you don't have rambling bios or confusing offers, right? Whatever that looks like for you, right? You want to make sure that it's so clear that there's no confusion. A confused mind does not give you their credit card, right? And it helps your clients make that decision. It helps your future clients make that decision. Okay. The other thing that you're charging for is a shortcut. There isn't anything that I teach or anybody else teaches that is not something you can't find somewhere on the internet. But I'm taking my many, many hours and many, many dollars that I've invested in learning these techniques and making it simple for you, right? So I'm taking all of my years of trial and error, right? And I'm compressing it into a process. I'm compressing it into a framework so that you don't have to take all those years and hours, right? With the trial and error. I'm giving you access to my network, my experience, my pattern recognition, right? So this is the same for you. People are not paying you to do the work necessarily. If that's something you do, that's separate than this, right? But they're paying you to not have to figure it out the hard way, right? And that is so valuable. It's so valuable. Many of the women that I work with, when we create high ticket packages, which is one of the first things I do with people when I work with people in the visibility salon or in our masterminds or any of that, is remind people that people will pay for fast results. So if you're a coach, right, and you have a 3-month package and it's $5,000 or $5 million, whatever it is, right? If you front load that 3-month package with a VIP day, you get to jump in at the 3 months at a much further along spot than if you start from scratch on day one of those 3 months, right? And people will pay for that. They'll pay for that because they're paying you to not have to figure this out the hard way, right? And the quicker they can have results, the more they're going to be willing to pay you, right? And you have the ability to do these things. So offer it. offer it. Okay. Remember that you're not selling widgets necessarily, right? Like I've said this many times, like if you sell pens, maybe, certainly you can sell one pen at a time, but that's a hard way to make a living. You're looking to build authority infrastructure so that you can find somebody that wants to buy 100,000 of your pens, right? And now you're selling, that's how you do this at a high ticket level. And this is where really LinkedIn and PR come into play here, because your strong LinkedIn presence will attract more inbound opportunities for those high ticket opportunities. It positions you as an expert before you even speak. Like your profile does a lot of that hard work for you. That does a lot of that heavy lifting for you, which is like the perfect place, especially if you've got some introvert in you, right? Like it's perfect. It does the hard, heavy work for you, and it works 24/7, right? Like I'm sitting on the beach and people are finding me on LinkedIn. Like who doesn't want that, right? Doesn't mean I don't work, right? But it means that even when I'm not working, my profile is working for me. So that's why I'm so hot on LinkedIn and why I talk about it on every single episode, because I think it does get woven into all the strategy that I teach, because it's such a hardworking platform for us, right? And it doesn't, but we don't have to be the hard workers like you do on some other platform where you have to post 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, right? Like it's a big difference when the platform works hard as opposed to you working hard. And then layering in the PR piece, right? These media features that I talk about, they're not just nice to have. They create instant credibility. They create borrowed trust, right? If I meet you on the street and I say, hey, I'm Karen Yankovich and I'm a marketing consultant and I teach LinkedIn and PR strategies to women, you don't know who I am. I have no credibility, right? Like, oh, that sounds nice, right? But if I am interviewed somewhere and they say, y'all need to listen to Karen because she is the expert at this, and to get your pens out because you're going to learn a lot. That's that borrowed trust, right? Because the people that are listening already trust the host or the leader of that event. And then she's saying, listen to Karen. So I get to borrow her trust, which is huge, 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 huge. And then there's a higher perceived value. Like, again, Karen meets this person on the street and says, hey, I'm a marketing consultant, blah, blah, blah. They're like, yeah. But if I say, I'm a marketing consultant, check out my podcast. I have 350 plus episodes. It's called Good Girls Get Rich. Higher perceived value. Right now, they can have a podcast. You can have a podcast, right? But when we create these media opportunities for ourselves, it immediately gives you a higher perceived value, right? So I'm not here to just help you become visible. I want you to become undeniable, okay? And that's where this PR and LinkedIn strategy shines. It helps you become undeniable, right? So instead of pitching yourself constantly, you start to become invited to things, right? Instead of chasing clients, right? Like so many people do on LinkedIn. How many freaking messages do you get with people pitching you in your DMs, right? I don't ever want you to be doing that, right? You're going to be the person that's referencing your Forbes feature or your podcast that you've been on, right? Like this is the difference here. This is the difference here. Doesn't that feel good? Doesn't that feel good? Here's the thing. I get that when I say things like, I want you to just double your pricing, I get that that feels uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable to me, right? But I can tell you that I have a standard that I employ in my business and that I teach everybody that I work with the same standard. And that is, if I charge $1 for something, I know in my heart of hearts, in my every piece of my DNA knows it's worth 10 times that. It's worth $10. So if I'm charging you $10,000 for something, I know that you're getting $100,000 in value. And I built my business this way. And I teach my clients to do the same thing because it helps you when you know this in your heart of hearts. It helps you say, and the rate for this is $50,000. Like you say, please pass the salt, right? And that's what I want for you. So if you're feeling like, who am I to charge this much money? This helps, right? Because you're know in your heart of hearts that it's worth 10 times whatever it is you're charging. If you're feeling like you're being judged or rejected or seen as too much, again, your client results will speak for themselves, right? Your client results will speak for themselves. If you're interested in, we're starting a new version of our mastermind, and DM me on LinkedIn if you want to know more about it. But basically, it's a 6-month mastermind. And in the 6-month mastermind, my goal is for you to bring in $100,000 in income. We're going to have a very strict timeline to make that happen, right? But in my head, even though I'm marketing it as we're going to make $100,000 in 6 months, I want you to make $200,000 because I want you to be out there saying, I took Karen's mastermind and I expected this and I doubled my results, right? So like for me, when I know, and I know in my head that anybody that I bring into this, I can see that path for them. If I can't see that path for them, I won't bring them in, right? So if I can see it and I can help you step by step to get there, it's easy to not worry about people thinking that I'm too much, because I know the people getting these results that are out of this world, right? So it's a little bit of a paradox, right? Because you want to be seen, but the reality then is like pricing higher establishes your credibility, and it kind of almost makes you more visible then, because people want to work with successful people. So this premium pricing isn't about arrogance. If it makes you feel a little uncomfortable, that's okay. We can get over that, because to me, it's about alignment. It's about alignment. If you know that your $10 program is really worth $100, that's alignment, right? That's what you want. And when you're undercharging, it creates resentment, it creates burnout, it creates like lower quality clients. I can tell you that for this mastermind that I just mentioned to you with, we have very strict requirements on the payment, because frankly, I want people to do the work. I want them to do the work. And I know if I like it's crazy to me, and it's the truth, and it's not just me, because this is industry wide. This is known industry wide. I have more trouble with like refunds and payments not going through on things I charge $27 for than things I charge $27,000 for. Like it just happens. When you undercharge, you bring in the wrong audience for your genius, right? And I don't, and listen, it doesn't mean you don't want to help these people. Like I do this podcast every week. It's completely my gift to you, right? So it's not like I do this because I want to help people. I want there to be more wealthy women in the world. And I want to get you to the point where you can take the strategies from this podcast and then call me up and go, all right, Karen, I'm ready. I want to hear about your mastermind, or I want to join the visibility salon, which is crazy inexpensive, right? And a lot of this is your identity, right? A lot of this really comes down to how you step into the room. So I kind of want to ask you this, like, who do you have to be to comfortably charge what the transformation that you provide when you work with people is worth, right? Who do you have to become to comfortably charge what your work is worth? So I want you to kind of think about your deliverables, right? I want you to have deliverables, right? But I want you to rewrite your offers in terms of the outcomes, because while the deliverables are important, as soon as you list the deliverables, you have to provide those things, right? And now, like you might have said, first we're going to do A, then we're going to do B, then we're going to do C. And when they do A, especially at a high ticket level, you might be like, I didn't think about this, but we need D. Now you still got to do B and C because you offered them as deliverables, but now you somehow have to fit D in somewhere, right? Because now D is really what's going to be what's going to affect the outcome. Maybe not B and C as much. Am I confusing you there? Maybe re-listen to that, because I think it made sense. You listen to it slowly. So you want to rewrite your offer in terms of outcomes and stop worrying about the deliverables as much. Okay. So, I could say I'm an expert in LinkedIn content strategy, or I could say I help position you as the go-to expert in your niche within 90 days. See the difference there, right? And you want to build your authority assets, right? Your LinkedIn profile is the hardest working asset you have online, right? It better more than your sales page. It is your sales page in many ways, right? The PR features that you work on, that you get interviewed in. This is your credibility stack, right? This is your credibility stack. These are the authority assets you want to build. And then testimonials. Like I said to you, our mastermind is the goal is in 6 months, you're going to bring in 6 figures in that we're going to teach you how to bring in 6 figures in that 6 months. I want it to be double, because I want the most amazing testimonials, right? So my goal for you is even more than that, because I love amazing testimonials, right? So you want to do things like have some case study posts when you start to create these things, right? If you Google me, like I remember being on an interview one time and somebody said, Karen, I threw your name in Google and like 25 pages come up. I'm like, yeah, I do know that, right? That is authority building for me. And that's completely created. I would love to tell you these people came and knocked on my door. They didn't. right? They didn't. And you also want to have that. Remember, we talked earlier about the clarity. The clarity. What exactly do you want people to do next? In this case here, I would love for you guys to check out the Visibility Salon. Visibilitysalon.com gets you there. I created that in 2026 because I wanted a place that I could attract more people at a lower price point. And if people want more from that, I have the opportunity to do that, right? But I just really felt called to do something that I could invite more people to. So visibilitysalon.com has all the details on that. I'd love to see you there, right? And remember, what you're anchoring to and all the things you're talking about is that transformation, right? Not the time. So you can increase your pricing if you're offering a jump start or a fast track kind of thing, right? Like certainty, like our mastermind, I am completely committed for you to bring in that 6 figures in those 6 months, right? And again, the price is also access to me. You get a whole lot more access to me in the mastermind than you do in the Visibility Salon. Doesn't mean you don't get access to me in the Visibility Salon, because you do. But at that price point, it's a lot less than when we were charging $9,000 for similar things, right? So it's based on speed and certainty and access, not how many hours you work. Your clients are not buying those hours of your time because you've put so many hours in to getting here. They're buying your confidence. They're buying your confidence. And, maybe you've seen like the example of somebody came, I think it was a construction example, right? Where like they came to your house and they charged $10,000 to fix your roof and it took them an hour. They're like, $10,000 for an hour. They're like, hey, you could hire somebody that's going to charge you $1,000 and it's going to take them 25 hours. But the reason I charge $10,000 for the hour is because I'm good and I get your roof fixed in an hour. And that's worth that $25,000, right? Like, so it's, hopefully you get the analogy of that, right? So I want you to think about that when you start to think about the work that you do. What would change in your life and your business if you just truly believed that every dollar that people invested in you was worth 10 times that, and that your work was actually changing lives? How would you show up differently on LinkedIn tomorrow if you believed truly in your heart of heart those things, right? So like a little task for you today would be just to update your LinkedIn headline, update your LinkedIn about section to reflect transformation and remove anything that yells task-based. Okay, that's like your homework for this episode. I want to just bring this home for a second. Here's what I want you to remember. You are not charging for your time. Okay? That moment that you see yourself differently because of the work that you and I do together, or this podcast inspired in you, that's what you're charging for. Okay. So I want you to stop second guessing. I want you to just like raise your hand and be ready for this. And I want you to step into a room that you used to feel shut out of. That's the kind of work that I do. And that's what is available to you. And I want you to think about how that applies to the work that you do, because that is premium. So if your pricing doesn't reflect that yet, it's not because you're not ready. It's because you haven't fully owned the value of what you do, right? That 10 times the dollar for every dollar that people invest in you. And that's the shift we're making right now. So if you're ready to step into this and to build a LinkedIn presence and a PR strategy that actually reflects your level of authority, then I would love to have you come join us inside the Visibility Salon. Because visibility is not about becoming louder. It's about being seen at the level you actually belong in. Okay. I could go on and on about this, but I think you get my point. Think about what would change if you just double your pricing and have this huge budget to be able to over deliver. It's just win, win, win all the way around. And I'm here for you every step of the way. And I'll be back here next week with another episode of the Good Girls Get Rich podcast.